The Portland Trailblazers have failed Damian Lillard. The Trailblazers once looked like a team on the come up. They drafted Damian Lillard, you had a cornerstone piece in LaMarcus Aldridge and the right assortment of role players. Everything was looking up for this franchise. The magical 2014 NBA season was where this organization seemed to have their shift. A core of Damian Lillard, Wesley Matthews, Nicholas Batum, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Robin Lopez led the Blazers to 54 wins, which were their most wins in a season since the 2008-2009 NBA season. Round 1 of the 2014 NBA playoffs featured an intense matchup against the Houston Rockets in a series where we saw one of the greatest game winners in NBA history.
A 3 wins the series. It's Lillard. He got the shot off. Lillard, good!
Dame time was born, and everybody had this Portland team on their radar. In the next round, however, they would lose to the eventual champion San Antonio Spurs, but the foundation was there. LaMarcus Aldridge was in his prime, Damian Lillard was a second-year All-Star, and Wesley Matthews, Robin Lopez, and Nick Batum were all in their first few seasons. But as we know, in the NBA, it just isn't that easy. Next season, this team got worse. They still won 50 games, but they lost to the Memphis Grizzlies in the first round. And it wasn't like a close loss. No, they lost in 5 games and went down 3 games to 0 very quickly. None of the first 3 games were close. This was a dominating series by the Grizzlies, and frankly, the Blazers just had no chance. So all that talk about having a foundation and the building blocks, yeah, that went out the window real quick. That offseason, basically everybody left. LaMarcus Aldridge signed with the Spurs, Wesley Matthews went to Dallas, Robin Lopez went to the Knicks, and Nick Batum signed a crazy contract with the Hornets. So now it was a completely new team with a completely new co-star in CJ McCollum alongside Damian Lillard. And it really goes to show Damian Lillard's greatness, because the fact that he was able to lead this team to wins was pretty crazy. The Dame and CJ era was an interesting one that featured a lot of ups and downs. This era of Trailblazers basketball won over 50 games just one time. They lost in the first round more times than they made it out, and quite literally never made any big time moves. But this team peaked as a conference finals team. They faced the Golden State Warriors in the series and they got swept. But every game of this series, they had like a comfortable lead, and there was no Kevin Durant. So now that I'm talking about it, I don't know how they got swept, but it's the Portland Trailblazers where a lot of weird things happen. Making it that far, I guess you could call that season a success. Or maybe not, I don't really know. Nonetheless, however, they had to blow it up. They knew that this team was not going to reach those heights ever again, and that's what they did. Except for the fact that the trades they made never really made sense. Last season, the Portland Trailblazers shipped out CJ McCollum to the New Orleans Pelicans for a trade package surrounding around Josh Hart and a future first-round pick that probably won't be high. They traded away Robert Covington and Norman Powell to the Los Angeles Clippers for quite literally nothing. And the team ended the year off with the 7th overall pick in that year's NBA draft. Moving to the offseason, this team re-signed Jusuf Nurkic, which we'll get into that later. They traded for Jeremy Grant, and they drafted Shaedon Sharpe with their 7th overall pick. And Anthony Simons made a leap too, which was very good to see. So this was their core, you know, and I guess they had some decent expectations. It started out good for this Trailblazers team, but quickly spiraled out of control, and now the Portland Trailblazers see themselves in yet another predicament. Recently, it was announced that the Portland Trailblazers will be shutting down Damian Lillard for the rest of the season, as there's simply no hope for them this year. They currently have the 6th best odds at the #1 overall pick. Not a lot of people like how they're doing Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard himself does not like how the Portland Trailblazers are doing Damian Lillard. And it's crazy because Damian Lillard has been a textbook superstar. He has been nothing but loyal and amazing to this team since he's got there. He's never been in any drama. You've never heard him sneak diss a coach or sneak diss a teammate. And in today's day and age, it's rare we see players have this type of loyalty to a team, especially one that has done quite literally nothing for you. But like I said, this team had some decent expectations. They wanted to be a playoff team, but they just weren't able to do that. And I mean, once you take a deeper look at the roster, you can see as to why that is. The starting backcourt for this team is Damian Lillard and Anthony Simons. Once again, you have 2 6'3" guards who shoot the heck out of the ball and don't play a lick of defense. But I mean, it can work. Like, having 2 small guards can work. We see it work in Cleveland, but this team is not built how the Cavaliers are built. The Cavaliers have Evan Mobley and Jared Allen as their backline defense, 2 all defensive players and 1 legit defensive player of the year candidate. And the Portland Trailblazers have Jusuf Nurkic. Jusuf Nurkic is obviously not the same player that he used to be. Those lower body injuries are no joke, and at 28 years old, we don't even know what his career path is. I mean, he doesn't look more than like an energy big off the bench. And to make matters worse, you gave him a 4-year, $70 million extension, fully guaranteed. A player that had, what, 2 season-ending injuries recently? it just made no sense as to why you gave him that contract. Looking at the rest of the roster though, there are some good pieces. They traded for Jeremy Grant in the offseason, whose offense is taking leaps over the last couple of years. Like, he's a legit 20-point per game scorer now, and he's been really efficient and effective for this Portland Trailblazers team. Now, personally, I would like to see his defensive impact return to how it was in OKC, but with his offensive game taking a leap, I just don't think that's going to happen. There's Anthony Simons, who, like I said earlier, shoots the heck out of the ball. He's a legit 20-point per game scorer, and he's one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. And with those 4 guys, you have your current day Portland Trailblazers, and as you can expect, it ain't good. Looking at some stats, this team is 27th in defensive rating. They don't generate a lot of steals or block many shots. They don't pass the ball much. They don't really rebound. But unlike majority of the mediocre teams we see nowadays, this team actually has some good building blocks for the future. There's Anthony Simons, like we already talked about. This team also has Shaedon Sharpe, who, like I said, was drafted with the 7th overall pick. Shaedon Sharpe is a high flyer man, and recently his offensive game has taken some leaps. It's been a very solid stretch for him as of recently. This team made a trade for Cam Reddish, and he's getting some opportunities. Trendon Watford is also a player who I really like. He's shown some great flashes offensively as of late. He has really good size, and I think he's going to be a great player for this Portland Trailblazers team. And then you got guys like Nasir Little and Matisse Thybulle, who they just recently traded for, who all of a sudden knows how to shoot the ball now. If you trade Damian Lillard, you can actually shift to a rebuild, but Damian Lillard does not want to be traded, and these small market teams aren't just going to get rid of their star players if they don't want to leave. And having a trade package centered around Anthony Simons, is any move you make involving him going to take you over the hump? I just don't really think so. So now their one hope is looking towards the draft. Obviously, you'd want number 1 to end up with Victor, but ending up with a Scoot Henderson or Brandon Miller or one of the Thompson twins would also be really good for this Blazers team. This team does not have the capacity of making another leap unless players get better, which could possibly happen, or unless they gut their roster like they did last year. And I mean, considering the moves that they made last year, I don't think I would want them to do that again. The bad moves are starting to catch up to them. You were never going to win anything with the CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard duo. You waited too long to trade him away. And being a mediocre team with a mediocre front office for so long, unfortunately, they're just suffering the consequences of that.